I would have taken notes.
You're on.
What'd you say? All right, we're
I
here.
would have taken notes.
Oh, you didn't take notes?
No.
All right, here we are, the Monday Movie Club. This week, we watched one of Amy's selections, which was Do the Right Thing, a Spike Lee joint, which is why it says a Joel Fenster joint
Very funny.
on there. Thank you, Joel.
Not a problem.
I'm Frank Gaffney. That's a Joel Fenster joint. Now, Joel, you've made joints, haven't you?
Oh, you mean actual joints or like movies?
Films, yes.
Yeah.
Films. Of course we have. Mark Wotitzgartner, Annie King, who dyed her hair. What's going on there?
Just a different lighting.
All right. And Amy Goldman, who should do something with her hair, but who knows what. All right. So, Amy, why do the right thing?
I don't know. You know, when this movie came out in 1989, we were all living in Queens, the Bronx, wherever. And I so very much remember all of the rioting. I remember
Howard
when
Beach?
I was going to say, when they were screaming Howard Beach, I totally remember the Howard Beach incident. I remember Eleanor Bumpers, who they mentioned in the scroll at the end. There was the, oh my God, the really famous one. And the
Juana
Crown
Brawley.
Heights, huh?
Juana Brawley?
Juana Brawley, Crown Heights, all of that shit. So for whatever reason, this movie just struck me. And I guess when I was only 23, it actually struck me as funnier than I thought it was when I watched it yesterday. I thought it was hilarious, and oh my God, Giancarlo Esposito just stole the movie. Loved him. I just really loved it. I loved it enough that I probably saw it 20 times in just a handful of years. And then watching it yesterday.
You're giving your review? That was only a little snippet.
That
Why
was
you
all I was
picked it?
gonna say. That's why I picked it. I
That's
just
the
loved
whole
it.
review? Oh, okay. Okay, so this was the fourth movie for 32-year-old Spike Lee. He wrote, produced, and directed the story. It explores a Brooklyn neighborhood simmering racial tension that culminates in violence and death on a hot summer day in August. Here we are. Without a doubt, for me, it's his greatest film, and the issues obviously are tragically still the same 30 years later. And this is actually what I wrote when I reviewed it for the Franken List. The movie confronts racism head on, and the kind of clear-eyed, unflinching attitude is rarely seen. Lee does not pander to political correctness, nor does he sermonize. He introduces the group of characters, sets up the situation, then allows the events to play out. His approach is pretty even-handed. He presents every character, regardless of race, gender, or age, clear-eyed and with a degree of sympathy. And Do the Right Thing remains a richly argumentative, debate-provoking, very American movie, and one that is more than a sum of its arguments. And I remember at the time that there were even some people in the media who thought this movie would incite riots and would incite violence, and which I don't think happened. And but on the same hand, it was pretty prescient of what was going to follow. And all the way up to George Floyd, which is very recent, and same exact thing. He was choked to death. So this movie is 4-star movie for me. Spike Lee shows the confidence of a much more mature director, and I don't feel he's duplicated this kind of success. It's his best film, and no matter who directed it, I think this film is a masterpiece, and that is the truth, Ruth. And one thing I read was that it was a game changer. Joel, how is it a game changer?
You read it was a game changer in what sense?
Yeah, that I guess for how films presented racial divides.
Well, yeah, you could argue that definitely. We hadn't really seen something that in your face head on from a major studio.
And yeah, and of course, then you love the way it was the whites versus the Koreans versus the blacks, how they and Puerto Ricans, they all had their own prejudices about their different groups around them, which of course is the way it is, and I thought he handled it very well. So let's go to the spoiler alert. Let's discuss Mookie throwing the garbage can through Sal's window. Now, when I remember when I first saw it, I thought, well, he's just doing that so they're not gonna attack Sal or his kid, or trying to divert the crowd from doing further damage to Sal and his family. So, but I saw this thing which I thought was very interesting, that Spike Lee said, like some 20 years later, that only white people question his motivation, that they are the only ones who ask him what was really his motivation. And obviously he was sick of all the injustice, and that's what. And no matter how level-headed you try to be, sometimes you just give in to the injustice. But I love that. And also Mookie yells hate when he throws the garbage can, hate, because what's his name? Radio
Raheem.
Radio Raheem has
Raheem.
the love and hate, which what I read too was a reference to The Night of the Hunter.
Yep.
Which Robert Mitchum has that tattooed on his fingers, love and hate. But Radio Raheem takes it one step further in saying that you choose which thing, which thing you're gonna choose. And in this case, Mookie chooses hate. He yells hate. And in the end, and that's another great thing about this movie, in the end, nothing gets better, nothing changes. Sal says it's going to be even hotter today, and I think that alludes to that this is not going to make anything better. Things are just going to get worse. And sure enough, that's what we ended up with.
You
Amy,
mentioned
you want to finish your review?
Yeah, sorry, I did start my review, but you mentioned the whole motivation of the ending, and I read the IMDb trivia, but I completely forgot it. So when I was rereading everything yesterday, and it mentioned, and it said that Spike said, people said that my motivation was perhaps to take the anger away from Sal. And he goes, that wasn't it at all, but he was open to that interpretation. And I certainly never thought that was the case. I thought it was, oh my God, I'm so fucking angry, I'm just gonna destroy something.
Yeah.
So I
Maybe.
thought that was fascinating that people thought that. And I thought, oh, see, I'm so not good at catching symbolism in movies, because I never would have thought that. To me, he was just angry and destroying the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the brilliant cast. I mean,
Oh my God.
Martin Lawrence and Rosie Perez made their film debut here, and others were already on the way up. Giancarlo Esposito, John Turturro, and was Samuel Jackson established by this point? Yeah, and then the veterans, of course, Danny Aiello, Ruby Dee, Ossie Davis, and all of them such fully realized characters. It really was. And Aim, I'm sure you thought it was still funny. There were still some very funny things, like the whole thing with Radio Raheem and his big boom box, and then the Puerto Rican kid with the one that wasn't quite so big. It was funny.
Yeah.
It was
And
funny.
again, another thing you can relate to. I remember people walking around with boxes like this all the time. So
Right.
it was much more relatable, of course, back then, but now it's more relatable in a this is still going on kind of way.
Right.
But
They
I
still
just
make, did they still make anything that takes 20 D batteries?
I know, right? And I thought there's no way that's 20. I'll give it 8 tops.
Aim, do you have anything that needs 8 D batteries?
No, it needs 20.
All right, so finish your review, Aim. What else did you have? Was it fun watching it again?
It was fun watching it again, but not quite as fun. It was at the time for years and years. It was a 4-star movie. Maybe I'll give it 3 3/4 now. I don't know why I'm thinking that. It was a little slow. And I was surprised at how much I didn't remember, and then how much I was like, oh God, I totally remember what's going to happen here. But I just love it. I think it's brilliant. I do think it's by far his best movie. The acting was off the chain, as the kids say. No, they don't. So that's it. I know. But I just saw somebody say, you're too old to be saying off the chain. So I don't know where I just saw that. So that's it. I loved it. I still loved it, but just maybe not quite as much this time.
Okay. So we we always yell at the Oscars, and here I feel we need to yell at them again. because the film only received 2 nominations for Spike Lee's screenplay and for Danny Aiello's supporting performance, and it didn't win either of them. The best picture nominees that year were Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poet Society, Field of Dreams, My Left Foot, and the winner, ironically, was Driving Miss Daisy, and did not get a Best Picture nomination. Did not get a nomination for Best Director for Spike Lee, which I think he absolutely deserved.
Well, I remember that was a huge
Yeah.
issue back then. how he was
Oliver Stone won the director award for Born on the 4th of July, and the director of Driving Miss Daisy wasn't even nominated. That's Bruce Beresford in Australia.
Well, wasn't it, and it was in the trivia, so you all might have read it, wasn't it Sharon Stone who announced the nominees that year and said these are the 5 nominees, and then the one missing is for Spike Lee and Do the Right Thing, and then like years later he thanked her for that on a podcast.
I think it was Kim Basinger, not
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
Isn't it Basinger?
It's Basinger,
Who
yeah.
cares?
All right, the other nominees were Woody Allen for Crimes and Misdemeanors, Peter Weir for Dead Poet Society, Kenneth Branagh for Henry V, and Jim Sheridan for My Left Foot. So, yeah, a big oversight in my opinion, Oscar-wise. All right, so Annie, what'd you think? Had you seen it before?
No, it was my first time seeing it.
Amy watched it 20 times and she didn't ask you to watch it even once?
No,
I
I
was
never
never
saw
allowed
it.
to have people over and sit in my room and watch movies.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not my normal type of movie. It was interesting, in that, yeah, 30 years later, we're still talking about the same thing. So, you know what? When I go to a movie, I really like to just be fun. I'd like to be,
You're looking for
taken-
escapism. Yeah.
yeah, that's for me, so things that make me really have to like look deep and
And
think
think.
deep and think is not as enjoyable for me, because then it brings up a lot of conversation and you want to talk about it and everything. So it was a good movie. I loved the cast. I thought they were great. There was a lot to connect with, talking about your local. It's funny, like we drive through different neighborhoods, and what's the one thing I'm always looking for? The pizza place and the Chinese takeout, right? That's like no matter what neighborhood I'm driving through, I'm like, oh, is there a pizza place? Oh, there's the pizza place. There's the Chinese takeout,
So
and
Annie, you couldn't relate to it on the level that you must have had incidents of prejudice because you're Chinese.
yeah, so that's like one of the things is I'm probably the racial part for me, definitely, because and it's hard to I don't know. I was pretty lucky, although I was one of 2 Chinese kids in the whole school, probably, right? But it didn't feel like it mattered. Like I didn't feel like it mattered in junior high school.
I don't remember it ever mattering. It was you and Jonathan Moy, right?
Right. So, and I didn't feel it, even though the whole school was practically Jewish, right? I just felt accepted. And strangely enough, I didn't really feel it till I went away to college.
Yeah.
In Albany, right? So a little upstate kind of thing, where I kind of felt it more. Like I walk into a bar and people would turn and look, and I felt like, oh, I'm the only, non-white person here. So it felt a little bit more. It's funny, I go to concerts these days and I'm like, and maybe it's the concerts I'm going to, I'm like, I'm the only like non-white person here. So I it's weird. I feel it more now than I did when I was a kid. Being like one of 2 Asian people,
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. So I just felt like it didn't matter at all as I was growing up in
Right.
junior high
And
school.
certainly in 1989, not an issue.
Yeah, junior high school,
Right.
It, and I definitely felt it this past couple of years with all the Asian hate and everything,
Right. Right.
My sister-in-law's sister like was harassed on the subway, and I was always worried for my mom getting on the trains every day to go to work and stuff.
Right.
So definitely felt it. And I think it's just a sad thing that we've not progressed at all in any, any way.
Right. So that made this not as enjoyable an experience
Yeah.
because it had an
maybe-
issue.
Yes, maybe I concentrated too much more on like all the things that were going on and all the racism and everything, rather than the comedy aspect or I thought like Samuel L. Jackson was funny and stuff, but I think maybe I focused too much on like all the racial aspects.
Yeah. So what's your ranking?
3.5 stars.
Mark, you
It's like the
certainly
opposite of me. She's like, it was okay. 3.5 stars. This movie
Mark, you
sucks.
certainly-
4 stars.
Mark, you certainly remember all of those incidents in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little bit young, but right around this movie came out, I was 14, and I probably saw it when I was 15 or 16 on VHS with the family, and that was the last time I saw it. So first off, I'll just say that I think I watched a different movie than you guys. I don't want to, I'm going to zip through some of the things I wrote down because I was, I think, a little bit overly critical, but this is only the second time I've seen it, so it has been 30.
No, I disagree. I don't want any zipping.
No
You can be
zipping?
critical.
Can I unzip?
Unzip.
In this matter, unzip.
Yeah,
Other matters, keep it zipped.
exactly. The opening, it was like Rosie Perez's audition for A Living Color. It went on for 5 minutes of her dancing. I hated that, and it set the tone. I think that's what it is. It like I was already like, all right, let's go.
but
Yeah,
the
no,
titles,
wait,
otherwise
no,
you would see-
wait. Now,
You would see the titles anyway. It was just that.
yeah,
That's the
no,
title.
exactly what you just said. That he definitely was trying to set the tone to say, this is what you're getting. You're getting the Black experience right now.
And I have to say something that I observed, just sorry to interrupt briefly because I'll forget.
There's no interrupting. We
Yes.
interrupt. It's what we do.
I miss opening credit
Credits.
sequence at this point because they do set the tone, especially in this movie. It really does set the tone and gives you an idea of what you're in for. And I miss that in almost everything at this point. You get it in a James Bond film every 5 years, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel like they hit you over the head with the theme. Fight the power was said 25 times in it, and I feel like it was just overly symbolic. You guys said you liked it. I felt like it was too heavy-handed. It was like, in case you're not paying attention, this is about
Right.
this. It was
I
so
can
much.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that too. And
But I think that's
And I
also the
think-
point of the film.
yeah, I think at the time, because Spike Lee was so angry, I think today he'd make a different film. But in 1989, this is where he was.
I get it, and that's why I felt like it was kind of amateurish, and some of the dialogue was just straight up unbelievable. Nobody talked like that. It's some of the dialogue, and I guess it's what I told you, Amy, when you showed me that clip of Giancarlo Esposito. You showed it to me like a year or two ago.
The bicycle.
And I said, wow, it just looked like a high school play. It looked like it was not realistic. And to me, that's what bugged me, I think, because you had somebody like Martin Lawrence. You guys said you liked the acting. I don't know. I hated it. I have people in there that I really like as actors, and I felt that they were horrible. And I guess it's to me, it's the direction. I guess he was going for something that you guys got. I didn't get it, which is why we're all different and we have different experiences at the movie.
Yeah.
And even like at the end, Ruby D, she was chanting along with everyone else, burn it down. 3 minutes go by, they show no transit, nothing. All of a sudden she's wailing. And I get it. She's angry. She's upset. I guess she's feeling the death of Rady Rahim, but it makes no sense. There's no transition. She's chanting. Then they go back to her. She's screaming. I hated that. I feel like Spike Lee, I know what you're saying, but this movie is very important, I think, for racial purposes. And I will always give it that. But in regards of movie making, I thought BlacKkKlansman was like up here. And this was like a very amateurish attempt comparatively. So I don't consider this his best movie at all.
But thank you for the reminder, because I also love that one, and that one's up there.
That was a real. That's why I was like, oh, now this is like a real movie. It wasn't. I feel like he's somewhat silly. Like, I don't know. He doesn't. What I appreciate, actually, here I'm gonna go on to the good stuff, because I didn't hate it. I really liked Danny Aiello and Sam Jackson, and I thought Ossie Davis and John Turturro were also good.
Oh my God.
I did laugh out loud a couple of times. There was some funny dialogue, and the best compliment I will give this movie is that the conversation that Danny Aiello and John Turturro have, that father-son moment when he's complaining about his friends are bothering him about working at this place. That was the realest part of the movie. That was a real father-son conversation. And I actually remembered that. When that part came, I was like, oh, here's the part I'm from when I was only 15. I remember that conversation because it impacted me even then. So that I will give him for that was a fantastic scene.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I wrote that down. If they were your friends, they wouldn't laugh at you.
that was a great line. And I
Yeah.
think Danny Aiello he brought the most realistic character to screen, I thought. Because I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. I knew a bunch of Sal's, you know. But at the end of the day, it just even Icy Tatas was not enough to save it for me. I'm going 2.5 stars, and that's like quarter to a half a star, purely for the social importance of the movie. I'm not going to watch it again. I wish I liked it better.
Joel.
I just want to circle back to the beginning of the conversation when I forget whether it was you, Frank, or Amy said, we were all in 1989, we were all in New York, and I was like, I want to correct 2 things. One is I was in Connecticut by that point,
There you are.
New York, and 2, I
It's
was
still
on
part of the tri-state area.
I understand that, but it's still Connecticut, where you're as close to New York as you can get and still be that far away.
Yeah.
So, especially here. But I also want to
Arian
say,
Darian.
yeah, exactly. I also want to say I was in line for Batman. So, but being the film student I was on my way to becoming at that point, I'm going to agree with Frank. This is a brilliant film. It's one of a handful of movies that was inducted into the National Film Registry as soon as it was eligible. There's a 10-year gap between when a movie is released and when it is eligible to be in. And I think that speaks to the importance of this film in American cinema history. It is, I'm going to say something a little contradictory here. It is Spike Lee's best film, but it's not my favorite film of his, if that makes any sense.
It does. It absolutely does.
And I think you also have to look at it as where it stands in his career. It's an early movie. It does.
I thought you were going to say oeuvre.
I thought you were going to say canon.
I'm hitting that age where I don't remember those words. So it's. I think when you look at a filmmaker's canon
Oeuvre.
or oeuvre, you have to look at the earlier stuff with a slightly different eye because they're a different person. The Martin Scorsese that made
Mean Streets
is not quite the Martin Scorsese that made Goodfellas, but you can see that progression
where it's going. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And say the same thing about Spike Lee. The Spike Lee that made She's Gotta Have It and Do the Right Thing is not exactly the same Spike Lee who made BlacKkKlansman. But
I just said that, Joel. I said he would, if he made it today, it would be a very different movie. Did I not say that?
You did say that.
All right.
But you also have to say, would he make that movie at all at this point?
I think he would.
Okay.
He's still angry about the situation, and I think the BlacKkKlansman definitely addressed that too.
Sure. No, it did. I think it's perfectly cast in almost every role, even with introducing Rosie Perez and Martin Lawrence and a few others that we haven't really seen much. I think they all bring what they need to bring, and I think Spike Lee gets out of them what he needs to get out of them to make the film work. I don't find it slow. It moves very at a good pace for a movie that's technically a slow boil, because that's what the whole thing's about. Is it's a hot day,
right?
And everybody's anger is slowly ramping up,
and I really felt like a cast of like 20 characters, and to effectively introduce all of them and incorporate all of them,
Yeah.
that's a very hard thing to do.
And I think he does it brilliantly. I think it's easily one of Danny Aiello's best roles. He's that scene that Mark was referencing earlier is easily the best scene in the movie, quickly followed by the last conversation between Sal and Mookie.
Yeah.
I think has a realism to it as well that
Yeah.
we're unfortunately still dealing with when, as Frank pointed out, when Sal says it's going to be another hot day, 30 years later, it's still a hot fucking day. And why have we not fixed this as a society? I think it's important to still have these discussions.
And I will quote Oscar Hammerstein, "You've got to be carefully taught."
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. I think it still goes on because that's what we learn from our parents.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna do that rare of rarities and agree with Frank and give it 4 stars.
Thank you, Joel.
And I'm also going to tell you right now, it is part of the Criterion collection. It was a part of it on Laserdisc. It's still part of it on both DVD and Blu-ray.
Wait, so now I have to say, I gotta look though. And it's number, I don't know. I think it's number 67 on the Franken list.
Oh, okay.
Let me look. Maybe 76.
I was going to say I think it's 97 in the DVD and Blu-ray and Criterion, but I forget.
It's number 7. It's number 76 on the Franken list.
There you go.
Frank, one thing that I read in the goofs, and I didn't think it was a goof at all, was Danny Aiello constantly saying pizzeria. Now, as an Italian, don't people say pizzeria? I've heard that.
A pizza, a pizza. I've heard a pizza, like Sally's a pizza.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Danny Aiello is Italian. He could say it however he wants to say it.
But I came as close as possible to living in that neighborhood. I think, well, maybe not that neighborhood, but in an Italian neighborhood in the Bronx. Nobody really said pizza like that. But there are some, and Danielle's family is also, they're Italian American. They make up words constantly and different accents. Gabagool.
Yeah.
And how many people? And they often cut off the vowels here, like mozzarella. No, it's you go to Italy, they're not saying mozzarella. They're saying mozzarella. So it's different. It's
that's
a New York
definitely
Italian.
no.
It could be a New York Italian accent
That's
that you
what
say
I
it like
It's
that.
a dialect. It's a
Is
dialect.
it
for
possible
sure.
that the Brooklyn dialect is different from the Bronx dialect?
There you go.
Way you remember.
Absolutely. So
Anthony's
yeah, I agree with
saying
Amy.
it
That wasn't a goof. I agree.
Anthony's saying it absolutely is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had regard.
Oh, I hate that.
Manicotti.
My
Yeah.
sister
Yeah,
Sharon
exactly.
says super
Mozzarella.
sod.
Super solid.
Super sod.
Super sod. What is
Super
that?
sod.
That's
Super
what I
sod.
Yeah.
We have gabagool,
Yeah, gabagool.
gabagool.
That one I like. That one.
which is
Took me
capicola.
It took me
That's
years to
gabagool.
figure out that's the fuck what it was. Capicola. How do you
Capicola.
get gabagool from?
Gabagool.
There's a
Maybe
guy on the
that's
Food
what-
Network that actually has, that's the name of his restaurant, Gabagool.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Gabagool. That's funny.
So, wait,
So
Annie,
I have questions.
sure.
What was with the cans scraping against the sidewalk? Kind of
to do the thing with the hydrant. I don't know what they were doing. Were they
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
no.
remove
So the
lid?
can helps to direct the stream of the
But
water.
why were they scraping? Were they trying to remove the lid because they didn't have the can open? And that's what I thought. They were
Oh.
just scraping the lid off.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably what they were doing.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Okay. And I love that it had the old register, the cash register.
That we had a big
Yes.
oasis. Well,
Yeah.
not with that, but
Yep, I love that. And the
I guess Annie
payphone,
found her notes.
yeah.
the payphone that was also like the restaurant phone that orders
Yeah.
came in on. I love that.
That
was great.
surprised me.
Yeah. And
On the wall of Italian Americans, Sophia Loren is not American,
No. You
She's
read that in
Italian,
IMDb.
but she's not
Yes.
American.
And then the black but not really black comment that Pino made, talking about Mookie. That was interesting because, like,
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the version of saying he was Uncle Tom, because he was, practically
Yeah.
white in the.
I thought it was more along the lines of Chris Rock's brilliant bit that he did 20 years ago that I'm not going to say until we stop recording.
Yeah.
No, is that he had assimilated too much. He was blackish now.
That's what I took it. I took it as like, oh, he's one of us. He's one of us. Yeah.
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 And even Danny Aiello says, you know, you've been like a son to me.
Right. And what was
So-
that with the relationship with the sister Jade?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was like, was he like fatherly to her, or was that a creepy like thing?
I
That
think
was creepy.
I think the intention is that there's a fatherly issue to it, but I think it's
Yeah.
also intended to come off as being creepy
Creepy.
because it adds to that, you know, white savior aspect that Spike Lee's probably playing with in that vicinity.
Okay.
It's just a guess on my part.
That sounds good. I like that.
Yes, and then one other thing was like the Koreans building that place in a boarded up building, and they were annoyed, but yet it had been sitting up boarded. You know, it had been sitting there boarded for so long, and
Yeah.
you know, and good. I just think that like sometimes you hate something for the wrong reason, or like the you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
because they certainly needed them.
yeah.
And for whatever reasons, you know, societal reasons, there were no black business owners who were able to either raise the funds to come in
Yeah.
and do
Right.
that thing, or maybe perhaps weren't even allowed to do that because you had landlords like
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
won't
And white
name
neighborhood.
you know, former presidents who, you know, had no problem redlining people.
Yeah, and yeah, that definitely was a comment on the situation as well. That here we have a black neighborhood and we don't even own any of the businesses.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? Are you
I
done?
That's
thought
it.
it was, I thought it was odd that they loosened the hydrant nut to the right and they tightened it to the left. And when they were doing it to the right, I said, I wonder if they're going to tighten it. And they did, and they went in the wrong direction both times. And then I thought, I need to look this up and see if that's a thing with hydrants.
And
Because
did
it's
you,
righty tighty, lefty loosey.
but did you look it up?
No, I forgot to.
Well, then we don't know.
Well, I can honestly say I lived in Manhattan and we did open the fire hydrant, and that's the way it goes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but it does.
Just to
All right, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
just to confuse everybody.
Yes. So you wouldn't open it,
Right.
you think you're opening
Right.
it.
But
Ah,
you're not.
you're tightening it. Okay, great. Well, Aim, thanks for suggesting it. I love this
Thank you for
movie and
watching.
I love watching it.
I,
Do the right thing.
Love you, Amy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shit on your movie. You know what?
Oh,
You know
that's
I love
okay.
you.
No. That's what we do. Shit
Yeah,
on everybody's movie.
yeah.
you
I'm
want.
used to it, so it's
Joel is very used to it. And I had 3 others backing me up. So, Bangul.
Bangul, gabangul.
Bafangu. Are we gonna get put in Facebook jail for saying Bafangu?
Yeah.
Do the right
I'm
thing is
looking up the hydrant.
Do the Right Thing is available on Peacock. If you subscribe to that service, of course, you can rent it from any.
I
number
thought
of
it was
services.
peacock, cock,
Oh,
cock.
stop
Yeah,
that.
Now, the reason I said that last week, it's actually a Katy Perry song. I
Yeah.
didn't make it up. It's Katy Perry. Next Monday, we'll be watching one of Mark's selections, which celebrates the 31st anniversary release of Terminator 2 from 1991, which is on HBO Max if you subscribe. And thank God Amy does.
everybody's going to want to double check that with the way HBO Max is removing shit left and right without telling people.
Yeah, they're not removing. They're not removing that.
Is
All
Terminator 1 also on there?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably
'Cause
not.
I can't watch a 2 without watching a 1 right before.
Yeah, Mark, what the hell were you thinking?
What are you
It was so
Joel?
much better than 1. I
I
think
think you
everyone's.
watch Star Trek 4.
Yeah, exactly. Amy, I'm sorry, Annie. Have you not seen the first Terminator?
I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen.
It's probably
2
been
also,
1,000 years, right?
but it's been a long time.
The
so I have.
Terminator is on Prime or Showtime.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's it. We're done for this week. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
And also with you.
Bye.